Brasserie Lefebvre Barbãr.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. One today from the Brasserie Lefebvre. And this is their Barbãr. Now, this is an interesting one. It's, in some places, it's called a honey pale ale. In other places, it's called a honey lager. I don't know what to make of it, because obviously a pale ale would mean it's top fermented. A lager would mean it's bottom fermented, I'm assuming. And on here, it's got special blonde. So, what the fuck? But, let's just take it as strong blonde beer with honey. That's what it says on the back in English. Stark beer mit Honig in German. And it's basically a light beer, a strong beer with honey in it. Now, you can get some really good beers with honey in. And one of the best, or one of my favourites, is the Fuller's Honeydew, and that is a light coloured beer. It's a summer beer, quite nice organic honey that they put in it, and it's one of my go-to beers. They sell it around the corner, and whenever they've got it in, I always get a few. If ever I'm having, you know, I'm not going to the pub anymore, am I? So I'm having these fucking Zoom meetings with mates, and I'll always get a couple of bottles of that, a couple of bottles of Bengal Lancer or London Pride. They're quite good around the corner actually doing the fuller stuff. But Honeydew is one of them. It's one of my favourites. In the same shop, they also do a Perła, which is a Polish beer, and that is the Perła Honey. And I did a shootout on the channel with the two, and the Fuller's Honeydew, in my opinion, was just so much better. The honey in the Perła, it just tasted really artificial, really manufactured, if you know what I mean, and it wasn't nice. It was just too sweet, very syrupy. In fact, I would argue that it tasted more like syrup than honey. So I really don't know what to expect from this lot. However, I have got a little indication, because they also do the Blanche de Brussels, which is a really good wheat beer, Belgian wit beer I should say. I really enjoyed that when I reviewed it, and I still remember it as being a very good one. So, you know, if that's the standard they're doing, then not bad. Now, a little bit about the brewery. They've been going since 1876. They are from Wallonia, or the French-speaking part of Belgium, and they come from a place called Quinast, which is a very small village. And as I say, they've been going since 1876, and they have been brewing various styles of beer. This beer actually dates back to 1996, so it's quite a new addition to their range. But they've also taken on some, I wouldn't say contract brewing, possibly licensed brewing. Now, what's the difference? Contract brewing, you're basically brewing beer for a supermarket, another brewer, etc. Like the license brewing, certainly in Belgium, you get it from abbeys, and there is an abbey that decided to use this brewery to take on their beer brewing, because they actually date back to 1123, this abbey that they're talking about. It's the Lefebvre Abbey, and they've, as I say, been going since 1123, and they were brewing beer. They shut down, and I think when they closed down, they reopened again, and I think in 1983 they gave them a license to brew the beer. So if you see any Abbey beer that is from the Lefebvre Abbey, then you know it's come from this lot. But this does look good, so let's stop gassing and let's investigate this beer. Right, 330ml bottle, 8%. That's hefty. and it is a honey beer. Now it's called Barbãr. What does that mean? Barbar. It's nothing to do with Ali and his 40 thieves. This is the word for barbarian, and when they talk about barbarians, they're talking about the ancient warriors that the Romans would call basically anyone who was uncivilized or who didn't accept the Roman way. So, for example, before England was conquered, we were barbarians. All the Germanic tribes were barbarians. It was just like a collective name, and they've sort of based this beer on the ancient brew that was around at the time, and it was made with honey. Now, a lot of mead and stuff like that, which was drunk at the time, certainly by the Saxons and the Vikings, that would be brewed with honey. Hops, as I say, in these other videos that I do, hops were a relatively late addition. They came around in the sort of 1500s. Before that, you had what was known as gruit beer, and that's basically every adjunct you can think of being thrown into a beer and made into some sort of drinkable alcoholic beverage. And that's about it really. It contains wheat. The ingredients, water, barley, malt, wheat, glucose, syrup, honey. It contains glucose, syrup and honey. Fucking hell, this is going to be sweet. Oh, I don't know whether I'm going to like this. It contains hops, bitter orange peel, coriander and yeast. Now that I like that they've put all that in there, so I know what sort of flavours to expect. But I said this on another video. I keep repeating myself a hell of a lot. I think that's what you do when you get old. But I said this on another video that some bright spark from the EU thought it'd be a great idea to try and impose a purity law across Europe. It's very similar to the Reinheitsgebot, which would be absolutely fucking devastating to the British and Belgian brewing industries. So yeah, that idea got put on the back burner, hopefully forever, because if they ever do that, then as I say about the Reinheitsgebot, it doesn't guarantee good beer, it just guarantees brewers' hands are tied as to what ingredients they can put in their beer. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get it in the glass. Right, now it's got a flip top lid, which is quite unusual for a Belgian beer. German beer, not so much, but Belgian, yes. I do like that sound. That is so satisfying. And this is the glass, or something similar to this. And this is 330ml bottle, so they normally have a smaller one than this, but it's like this. It's like one of these tankards. So I'll just put it in it. It's very strong. I can smell it from here. It really is strong. God, honey. Very sweet honey. Now, there was rumours that Het Anker, the brewery, had something to do with this. Some of the beer was brewed by Het Anker, which are a reasonably good Belgian brewer. I'm not sure where this comes in. It's just mentioned it in the research, but anyway, enough about that. Let's get this smell. Let's get this aroma. Wow, that is interesting. Definitely getting the coriander. There's a lot of aroma to take in here. Coriander, sweetness, honey sweetness, banana and clove, pepper, typically Belgian, spicy too. That orange zest I'm not getting so much, but it's just got everything a good Belgian beer should have. That's what it looks like in the glass. Relatively dark amber. I'm not sure why they've called it a pale ale. I suppose it is pale compared to stout. Anyway, enough on that. Let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. Not bad. Not bad at all. Wow, a long aftertaste. Now, it's very rounded, very sweet, Not much of a hint of ethanol in there. I thought there would be more at 8%, but there isn't. But it's nice. I'm saying there's no ethanol, but I can feel the warming from the alcohol. It's really nice though. The dominant flavours, the two dominant flavours I'm getting in this are clove and honey. They're the big flavours. There's a lot of carbonation, quite nice, not too obtrusive. I will say it's quite rounded though. There's no spiky bitterness on this at all. It's very well rounded with that honey in it. Quite strong bodied too, with the wheat content they've got in this. I am quite liking it. That carbonation is just right for a Belgian. Yeah, when I have it on the palate, I can feel it. It's not too abrasive though, and it does make the flavour sort of leap out on you. This is quite, I wouldn't say it's warm, but it's about cellar temperature. I'm not sure whether this is supposed to be drunk a little bit colder, but I am certainly getting all the flavours from it. And it's quite nice. Now, they've called this by their own admission, and I say this about a lot of Belgian beers, they've called it a degustation ale. And what does it mean? What do you mean by that? Well, it might look like a lager, it might have quite an agreeable drinkability to it, but it's one for tasting and savouring and not one for gulping. And I could imagine that this would get a little bit sickly after about 3 or 4. That sweetness would just, I wouldn't say it would be too much, but I would just get a little bit tired of it. But 1 or 2 of these, absolutely perfect. I'm being reminded of a Wit beer, and I know why, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It's because of the orange peel and the coriander and the clove and the banana. Now, yes, it's different from a Belgian Wit beer, but it's got a lot of similarities. Even though it does contain wheat, obviously the grain bill isn't made up, or the majority or quite a hefty chunk of it isn't made up from wheat, but there is some in there. And if you like Belgian Wit beer, then I think you're going to like this. Now, I do remember their Wit beer being relatively sweet. Not as sweet as the Hoegaarden, but it was sweeter than some of the other good Belgian Wit beers. But I really did like it. It was so drinkable. 5%, very nice indeed. This is a little step up from it. You don't really want to be caning this, because this is, as they say, it's a degustation ale. It's not one for knocking back, he says as he's fucking gulping it down. I like it, but I think that sweetness would be a little bit too much for me. But 1 or 2, as I say, would be very agreeable. Certainly with some food as well. Now, I don't normally go in for food when I'm drinking, but if I had to, and if I was trying to act civilised in front of people, which is rare, but if I had to, and if there was a meal or something, this would go down really well with a strong cheese or meat, it's like chicken or something like that. It's got that nice flavour, it just complements food. I know I like this. See, this is the trouble. When I put beer into pint glasses like this, I just get the pint mentality, and I'm fucking taking mouthfuls and mouthfuls of it, and that really isn't what it's supposed to be. It's one for sipping. So I'm going to put that down there before I show what a real barbarian I am. So what's the verdict on Barbãr? Yeah, it's nice. I like it. Let me show you the label. That's their depiction of a barbarian on that. And yeah, as I say, it's got the flip top cap. It's nice. Certainly doesn't taste like an 8% beer. There's no strong ethanol in that. This is all about the quite big body on it, but it's all about the sweetness, about the honey, the fruit from the orange, the bitter orange peel, and the spices as well. And altogether, it's really good. I like it, but as I say, I don't think I could drink too much of it. Now I know it comes in a 330ml bottle, but I think they do a 750ml bottle as well. And I'd have to share that, because if I had one of them all on my own, I think towards the end of it, I would not be enjoying it. But having said that, it's good. I quite like it. I'm going to give it a solid 7.5. I really was contemplating giving it 8, but it's just because, yeah, it does taste nice, and it is, as they say, a degustation ale, but it is not one for sessioning. And I can imagine after, I would say 3, I'd start getting a little bit tired of it. If it was colder, maybe I could drink more, but you don't really want to be drinking these ice cold. You're just absolutely defeating the purpose of a Belgian beer if you drink it ice cold, unless of course it's a lager or something like that, because once you start doing that, you're going to lose some of the flavours. But this ain't bad. I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to give it a 7.5. It's a solid 7.5. But you know, if you're not a fan of sweet beers, if you're not a fan of that typical Belgian style flavour, that, you know, with the clove, the banana, and the spices, you're not going to like that. But I love that sort of flavour, so I like this. So it's 7.5 for me, and I recommend it. So there you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.